Question 1. Why is it important to make full use of the slip road as you join a motorway? B. To allow you to fit safely into the traffic flow in the left-hand lane. Explanation. Try to join the motorway without affecting the progress of the traffic in the left-hand lane and always give way to traffic already on the motorway. At busy times, you may have to slow down to merge into slow-moving traffic. Question 2. When would you use an emergency area on a motorway? B. In cases of emergency or breakdown. Explanation. On some motorways, emergency areas are built at the side of the carriageway. If you break down, try to get your vehicle into the emergency area where there's an emergency telephone. The phone connects directly to a control center. Before rejoining the motorway, you must call the control center. A lane may need to be closed to allow you to rejoin safely. Question 3. What restrictions apply to people who have a provisional driving license? B. They can't drive unaccompanied. Explanation. You won't be able to drive unaccompanied until you've passed your practical driving test. If you haven't driven on the motorway while you were learning, ask your instructor to take you for a lesson on the motorway when you've passed your test. Alternatively, you could take part in the Pass Plus scheme. This has been created for new drivers and includes motorway driving. Ask your instructor for details. Question 4. How do motorways reduce traffic bunching? A. By using variable speed limits. Explanation. You must follow the mandatory signs on the gantries above motorway lanes, including the hard shoulder. Variable speed limits help keep the traffic moving and also help to prevent bunching. Question 5. You're driving on the motorway. Which lane should you get into well before you reach your exit? C. The left-hand lane. Explanation. You'll see the first advanced direction sign 1 mile from a motorway exit. If you're traveling at 60 miles per hour in the right-hand lane, you'll only have about 50 seconds before you reach the countdown markers. There'll be another sign at the half-mile point. Don't cut across lanes of traffic at the last moment. Move to the left-hand lane in good time. Question 6. When may you stop on a motorway? A. In an emergency or breakdown. Explanation. You shouldn't normally stop on a motorway, but there may be occasions when you need to do so. If your vehicle breaks down or there's an emergency, stop on the hard shoulder and use the emergency telephones to call for assistance. Question 7. What should you do while you're driving or riding along a motorway? D. Look much further ahead than you would on other roads. Explanation. Traffic on motorways usually travels faster than on other roads. You need to be looking further ahead to give yourself more time to react to any hazard that may develop. Question 8. Your vehicle breaks down on a motorway and you need to call for help. Why might it be better to use an emergency roadside telephone rather than a mobile phone? B. It allows easy location by the emergency services. Explanation. On a motorway, It's best to use a roadside emergency telephone so that the emergency services are able to find you easily. The location of the nearest telephone is shown by an arrow on marker posts at the edge of the hard shoulder. If you use a mobile, find out the number on the nearest marker post before you call. This number will let the operator know where you are and in which direction you're traveling. Question 9. What's the national speed limit for a car or motorcycle on a motorway? B. 70 miles per hour. Explanation. The national speed limit for a car or motorcycle on a motorway is 70 miles per hour. Lower speed limits may be in force, for example, at roadworks. Variable speed limits also operate in some areas when the motorway is very busy. Cars or motorcycles towing trailers are subject to a lower speed limit. Question 10. Your vehicle breaks down on a motorway and you manage to stop on the hard shoulder. What should you do if you use your mobile phone to call for help? A. Check your location from the nearest marker posts beside the hard shoulder. Explanation. You should use an emergency telephone when you break down on the motorway. Only use your mobile if this isn't possible. The emergency services need to know your exact location so they can reach you as quickly as possible. Look for a number on the nearest marker post beside the hard shoulder. Give this number when you call the emergency services. Question 11. Where should you stop to rest if you feel tired while you're traveling along a motorway? C. At the nearest service area. Explanation. If you feel tired, stop at the nearest service area. If that's too far away, leave the motorway at the next exit and find a safe place to stop. You mustn't stop on the carriageway or hard shoulder of a motorway except in an emergency, when in a traffic queue, or when signaled to do so by a police officer, a traffic officer, or traffic signals. Plan your journey so that you have regular rest stops. Question 12. How should you position yourself when you use the emergency telephone on a motorway? C. Face the oncoming traffic. Explanation. Traffic is passing you at speed. If the drought from a large lorry catches you by surprise, it could blow you off balance and even onto the carriageway. By facing the oncoming traffic, you can see approaching lorries and so be prepared for their drought. You'll also be in a position to see any other hazards approaching. Question 13. Why is it particularly important to check your vehicle before making a long motorway journey? A. Continuous high speeds increase the risk of your vehicle breaking down. Explanation. Before you start your journey, make sure that your vehicle can cope with the demands of high-speed driving. You should check a number of things, the main ones being fuel, oil, water, and tires. You also need to plan rest stops if you're making a long journey. Question 14. You're on a motorway. What does it mean when a red cross is displayed above the hard shoulder? A. You must not travel in this lane. Explanation. At certain times, the hard shoulder will be open as a running lane. However, a red cross above the hard shoulder shows that it is not open as a running lane and should only be used for emergencies and breakdowns. Question 15. What should you do when going through a contraflow system on a motorway? C. Keep a good distance from the vehicle ahead. Explanation. At roadworks, and especially where a contraflow system is operating, a speed restriction is likely to be in place. Keep to the lower speed limit and don't switch lanes. Get too close to the vehicle in front of you. Be aware that there will be no permanent barrier between you and the oncoming traffic. Question 16. You're joining a motorway from a slip road. How should you deal with traffic already on the motorway? N. Match your speed to traffic in the left-hand lane and filter into a safe gap. Explanation. You should give way to traffic already on the motorway. Where possible, traffic may move over to let you in, but don't force your way into the traffic stream. Traffic could be traveling at high speed, so try to match your speed to filter in without affecting the traffic flow. Question 17. Which vehicles should use the left-hand lane on a 3-lane motorway? D. Any vehicle that isn't overtaking. Explanation. On a motorway, all traffic should use the left-hand lane unless overtaking. When overtaking a number of slower vehicles, move back to the left-hand lane when you're safely passed. Check your mirrors frequently, and don't stay in the middle or right-hand lane if the left-hand lane is free. Question 18. When would you use the right-hand lane on a 3-lane motorway? C. When you're overtaking. Explanation. The right-hand lane of the motorway is for overtaking. Sometimes you may be directed into a right-hand lane as a result of roadworks or a traffic incident. This will be indicated by signs or officers directing the traffic. Question 19. You're on a motorway. What must you do if there's a red cross showing above every lane? A. Stop and wait. Explanation. A red cross signal above all lanes means you must stop and wait. Don't change lanes and don't try to continue any further along the motorway. Question 20. You're towing a trailer along a 3-lane motorway. When may you use the right-hand lane? D. When there are lane closures. Explanation. If you're towing a caravan or trailer, you mustn't use the right-hand lane of a motorway with 3 or more lanes except in certain specified circumstances, such as when lanes are closed. Question 21. Where are amber reflective studs found on a motorway? B. Between the central reservation and the carriageway. Explanation. On motorways, reflective studs of various colors are fixed in the road between the lanes. These help you to identify which lane you're in when it's dark or in poor visibility. Amber-colored studs are found on the right-hand edge of the main carriageway, next to the central reservation. Question 22. You're in the right-hand lane of a 3-lane motorway. What do these overhead signs mean? D. Move to the left and reduce your speed to 50 miles per hour. Explanation. You must obey these signs even if there appear to be no problems ahead. There could be queuing traffic or another hazard that you can't see yet. Question 23. How should you use the lanes on a motorway? C. Keep to the left-hand lane unless you're overtaking. Explanation. You should normally travel in the left-hand lane unless you're overtaking a slower-moving vehicle. When you've finished overtaking, move back into the left-hand lane, but don't cut across in front of the vehicle that you've overtaken. Question 24. When should you use the left-hand lane of a motorway? A. When the road ahead is clear. Explanation. You should drive in the left-hand lane whenever possible. Only use the other lanes for overtaking or when directed to do so by signals. Using other lanes when the left-hand lane is empty can frustrate drivers behind you. Question 25. Which vehicles are prohibited from using the motorway? D. Powered mobility scooters. Explanation. Motorways mustn't be used by pedestrians, cyclists, motorcycles under 50 cc, certain slow-moving vehicles without permission, and powered wheelchairs, mobility scooters. Question 26. What does this motorway sign mean? A. Use all the lanes, including the hard shoulder. Explanation. You must obey mandatory speed limit signs above motorway lanes, including the hard shoulder. In this case, you can use the hard shoulder as a running lane, but you should look for any vehicles that may have broken down and may be blocking the hard shoulder. Question 27. Your vehicle has broken down on a motorway. In which direction should you walk to find the nearest emergency telephone? B. In the direction shown on the marker posts. Explanation. Along the hard shoulder there are marker posts at 100-meter intervals. These will direct you to the nearest emergency telephone. Question 28. You're traveling along a motorway. Where would you find a crawler or climbing lane? D. On a steep gradient. Explanation. Large, slow-moving vehicles can hinder the progress of other traffic. On a steep gradient, an extra crawler lane may be provided for slow-moving vehicles to allow faster-moving traffic to flow more easily. Question 29. What do these motorway signs mean? B. They're countdown markers to the next exit. Explanation. The exit from a motorway is indicated by countdown markers. These are positioned 90 meters, 100 yards apart, the first being 270 meters, 300 yards from the start of the slip road. Move into the left-hand lane well before you reach the start of the slip road. Question 30. What's the speed limit for a car towing a trailer on a motorway? B. 60 miles per hour. Explanation. If you're towing a small, light trailer, it won't reduce your vehicle's performance by very much, and it may not be visible in your mirrors. However, strong winds or buffing from large vehicles might cause the trailer to snake from side to side. Be aware of your speed and don't exceed the reduced speed limit imposed on vehicles towing trailers. Question 31. You're on a motorway. What does it mean if a red cross is showing above the hard shoulder and mandatory speed limits above all other lanes? C. The hard shoulder is for emergency or breakdown use only. Explanation. A red cross above the hard shoulder shows that it's closed as a running lane and should only be used for emergencies or breakdowns. On some motorways, the hard shoulder may be used as a running lane at busy times. This will be shown by a mandatory speed limit on the gantry above the hard shoulder. Question 32. Your car gets a puncture while you're driving on the motorway. What should you do when you've stopped on the hard shoulder? C. Use an emergency telephone and call for help. Explanation. Park as far to the left as you can and leave the vehicle by the near side door. Don't attempt even simple repairs. Instead, walk to an emergency telephone on your side of the road and phone for help. While waiting for help to arrive, stay by your car, keeping well away from the carriageway and hard shoulder. Question 33. You stop on the hard shoulder of a motorway and use the emergency telephone. Where's the best place to wait for help to arrive? C. Well away from the carriageway. Explanation. When you're on the hard shoulder, you're at risk of being injured by motorway traffic. The safest place to wait is away from the carriageway, but near enough to see the emergency services arriving. Question 34. You're traveling along a motorway. When are you allowed to overtake on the left? A. When in queues and traffic to your right is moving more slowly than you are. Explanation. Never overtake on the left unless the traffic is moving in queues and the queue on your right is moving more slowly than the one you're in. Question 35. On a 3-lane motorway, which lane should you use if there's no traffic ahead? D. Left. Explanation. On a 3-lane motorway, you should travel in the left-hand lane unless you're overtaking. This applies regardless of the speed at which you're traveling. Question 36. Traffic officers operate on motorways and some primary routes in England and Wales. What are they authorized to do? A. Stop and direct anyone on a motorway. Explanation. Traffic officers don't have enforcement powers but are able to stop and direct people on motorways and some A-class roads. They operate in England and Wales and work in partnership with the police at incidents, providing a highly trained and visible service. They're recognized by an orange and yellow jacket, and their vehicle has yellow and black markings. Question 37. What should you do when you're approaching roadworks on a motorway? B. Obey the speed limit. Explanation. Be aware of reduced speed limits at roadworks. Speed limits shown inside a red circle are mandatory, and cameras are often used to enforce the reduced limit. Slow down in good time and keep your distance from the vehicle in front. Question 38. You're on a motorway. What does it mean when a mandatory speed limit is displayed above the hard shoulder? A. The hard shoulder can be used as a running lane. Explanation. A mandatory speed limit sign above the hard shoulder shows that this part of the road can be used as a running lane between junctions. You must stay within the speed limit. Look out for vehicles that may have broken down and could be blocking the hard shoulder. Question 39. Your vehicle broke down on the hard shoulder of a motorway but has now been repaired. How should you rejoin the main carriageway? B. Gain speed on the hard shoulder before moving out onto the carriageway. Explanation. Signal your intention and build up sufficient speed on the hard shoulder so that you can filter into a safe gap in the traffic. Don't push your way into a small gap or cause other traffic to alter speed or direction. Question 40. What color are the reflective studs between the hard shoulder and the left-hand lane of a motorway? C. Red. Explanation. Red studs are placed between the edge of the carriageway and the hard shoulder. Where slip roads leave or join the motorway, the studs are green. Question 41. Which vehicles aren't allowed to use the right-hand lane of a 3-lane motorway? B. Vehicles towing a trailer. Explanation. On the motorway, any vehicle towing a trailer is restricted to 60 miles per hour. It isn't allowed in the right-hand lane, as it might hold up faster-moving traffic that wishes to overtake in that lane. Question 42. How should you rejoin the motorway after a breakdown on the hard shoulder? D. Build up speed on the hard shoulder before looking for a safe gap in the traffic. Explanation. To rejoin a motorway from the hard shoulder, you first need to build up speed on the hard shoulder. You can then look for a safe gap in the traffic in the left-hand lane. Watch for traffic that may be returning from a lane on the right into the left-hand lane. Question 43. You're driving on a motorway. What does it mean if the car in front shows its hazard warning lights for a short time? B. Traffic ahead is slowing or stopping suddenly. Explanation. If the vehicle in front shows its hazard warning lights, there may be an incident, stop traffic, or queuing traffic ahead. By keeping a safe distance from the vehicle in front, you're able to look beyond it and see any hazards well ahead. Question 44. What's the national speed limit on motorways for cars and motorcycles? A. 70 miles per hour. Explanation. Traveling at the national speed limit doesn't allow you to hog the right-hand lane. Always use the left-hand lane whenever possible. When leaving a motorway, get into the left-hand lane well before your exit. Reduce your speed on the slip road and look out for sharp bends or curves and traffic queuing at roundabouts. Question 45. What helps to reduce traffic bunching on a motorway? D. Variable speed limits. Explanation. Congestion can be reduced by keeping traffic at a constant speed. At busy times, maximum speed limits are displayed on overhead gantries. These can be varied quickly depending on the amount of traffic. By keeping to a constant speed on busy sections of motorway, overall journey times are normally improved. Question 46. You're driving on a motorway and have to slow down suddenly due to a hazard ahead. How can you warn drivers behind of the hazard? D. Switch on your hazard warning lights. Explanation. Using your hazard warning lights as well as your brake lights will give the traffic behind an extra warning of the problem ahead. Only use them for long enough for your warning to be seen. Question 47. When are you allowed to stop on a motorway? B. When you're signaled to do so by traffic signals. Explanation. You must stop if overhead gantry signs show a red cross above every lane on the motorway. If any of the other lanes doesn't show a red cross, you may move into that lane and continue if it's safe to do so. Question 48. You're on a motorway. The hard shoulder is not being used as a running lane. When should you use the hard shoulder? D. When you're stopping in an emergency. Explanation. Don't use the hard shoulder for stopping unless it's an emergency. If you want to stop for any other reason, go to the next exit or service area. Question 49. What would you expect to find at a contraflow system on a motorway? C. Lower speed limits. Explanation. When approaching a contraflow system, reduce speed in good time and obey all speed limits. You may be traveling in a narrower lane than normal, with no permanent barrier between you and the oncoming traffic. Be aware that the hard shoulder may be used for traffic and the road ahead could be obstructed by slow-moving or broken-down vehicles. Question 50. You're traveling in the left-hand lane of a 3-lane motorway. How should you react to traffic joining from a slip road? C. Adjust your speed or change lane if you can do so safely. Explanation. Plan well ahead when approaching a slip road. If you see traffic joining the motorway, be prepared to adjust your speed or move to another lane if it's safe to do so. This can help the flow of traffic joining the motorway, especially at peak times. Question 51. What should you do immediately after joining a motorway? A. Stay in the left-hand lane. Explanation. When you've just joined a motorway, stay in the left-hand lane long enough to get used to the higher speeds of motorway traffic before considering overtaking. Question 52. You're on a 3-lane motorway. Which lane are you in if there are red reflective studs on your left and white ones to your right? A. In the left-hand lane. Explanation. The colors of the reflective studs on the motorway and their locations are red between the hard shoulder and the carriageway, white between lanes, amber between the carriageway and the central reservation, green along slip road exits and entrances, bright green-yellow at roadworks and contraflow systems. Question 53. You have stopped in an emergency area. What must you do before you rejoin the carriageway? D. Use the emergency telephone. Explanation. To rejoin the carriageway from an emergency area, you must use the emergency telephone and follow the operator's advice. A lane may have to be closed so that you can rejoin the carriageway safely. Question 54. What should you do if you're driving on a motorway and you miss the exit that you wanted to take? C. Carry on to the next exit. Explanation. It's illegal to reverse, cross the central reservation, or drive against the traffic flow on a motorway. If you miss your exit, carry on until you reach the next one. Ask yourself why you missed your exit. If you think that your concentration is fading, take a break before continuing your journey. Question 55. Your vehicle has broken down on a motorway. What should you do if you aren't able to get onto the hard shoulder? D. Switch on your hazard warning lights. Explanation. If you can't get your vehicle onto the hard shoulder, use your hazard warning lights to warn others. Leave your vehicle only when you can safely get clear of the carriageway. Don't try to repair the vehicle or attempt to place any warning device on the carriageway. Question 56. What color are the reflective studs between the lanes on a motorway? B. White. Explanation: white studs are found between the lanes on motorways. They reflect back the light from your headlights. This is especially useful in bad weather when visibility is restricted. Question 57. What color are the reflective studs between a motorway and a slip road? B. Green. Explanation: the studs between the carriageway and the hard shoulder are normally red. These change to green where there's a slip road, helping you to identify slip roads when visibility is poor or when it's dark.